Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into an epic survival action thriller where a young boy and the President of the United States must fight against ruthless enemies in the wilderness, packed with intense action, betrayals, and a thrilling game of survival. This movie will keep you on the edge of your seat. So, sit back, relax, and let's get into the full recap of this mind-blowing movie. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our latest recaps. Now let's begin. The movie begins with a young boy and an older man entering an old cabin. They look at pictures on the wall, which show young men in hunting clothes, posing with their kills. The man asks the boy if he recognizes anyone in the photos. The boy points to one, and the man reveals that it's him when he was 13 years old. He leaves the room, while the boy looks at the pictures with sadness. Later, they drive through the forest in trucks. The boy practices English while the man drives. The man hands the boy a map and instructs him to find a red cross, which marks a secret location full of animals to hunt. His father, Tapio, gives him tips on hunting. As they set up camp, Tapio helps the boy, Axel, practice with a bow and arrow, but Axel struggles. Some people in the group argue over whether he should continue hunting, but Tapio convinces them. Eventually, they give Axel a speech, stating that he has one day and one night to bring back an animal on his own. Meanwhile, another man is on a large plane with the president, heading to Finland. He speaks with the president and mentions his plans to retire after the trip. Back in the forest, a helicopter arrives, and the pilot asks what animals they plan to hunt. When they land, one of the passengers takes out a missile and aims at a civilian aircraft. The pilot, alarmed, asks if they are terrorists. The boss tells him they are in serious trouble and advises him to run. As the pilot flees, the boss uses the opportunity to test the missile on him. The missile not only kills the pilot, but also destroys a large portion of the forest. On Air Force One, alarms suddenly blare as Morris is informed that a missile is targeting their plane. The plane's defense systems fail, and Morris quickly orders an emergency evacuation. The plane shakes violently as he grabs the president, who is only wearing one shoe, and shoves him into an escape pod. A team of security guards parachutes after the pod, but the last guard notices something is wrong and warns Morris. Morris pulls out a gun, shoots an attacker, then puts on a parachute and jumps. As the missiles soar through the air, Morris descends rapidly. In the forest, a boy named Asghari hears the planes crashing. He screams and falls to the ground as flames engulf the forest around him. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., a woman introduces the vice president to Fred Herbert, a former CIA operative now in charge of a counterterrorism intelligence unit. Some believe the plane crash was a terrorist attack, while others think it might have been a mechanical failure. Fred insists that the priority is to find the president and bring him back. Back in the forest, Morris is stuck in a tree due to his parachute. He manages to free himself and falls to the ground, but he is only slightly injured. He tries to contact the other agents via radio, but no one responds. Morris then whispers mysteriously, "The angel is down." Asghari, wandering through the wreckage, spots the boy emerging from hiding with his bow and arrow, ready to shoot. The president quickly shows Asghari his passport to prove his identity. Asghari informs him that there are no villages or towns nearby. At the Pentagon, military forces locate the president's escape pod and dispatch helicopters to ensure his safety. Meanwhile, in Norway, a farmer's dog starts barking. The farmer investigates and discovers a beeping tracker under his trampoline. It's the tracking device from the escape pod. The government helicopters return empty-handed, and the vice president is furious that the president is still missing. Morris and his team return to the crash site and open the escape pod, only to find it empty. Meanwhile, the president follows Asghari, who explains that he will protect him using his bow and arrow. Although skeptical, the president decides to trust him. Asghari leads the president to his car and instructs him to sit in the back. They drive through the forest as Morris inspects footprints near the escape pod, concluding that someone helped the president escape. He reports to his leader, Hazza, that he will track down the president. It is revealed that Hazza paid Morris to betray the president. Morris also reveals that he has a piece of metal lodged in his chest from when he once saved the president. The next morning, the president wakes up to the sound of Asghari imitating a deer call to attract animals for hunting. Asghari finds the president's missing shoe and tosses it to him before climbing a mountain while continuing to mimic deer sounds. Meanwhile, Morris, Hazza, and their men hear Asghari's calls. Asghari climbs a large rock and finds a freezer box. Inside, there is a recently severed deer head and a note from his father that reads, "Happy birthday." Nearby, the president discovers the bodies of his guards scattered across the mountainside. Realizing that someone sabotaged their parachutes, he grabs a gun from a fallen agent and hides behind a rock. He watches as Morris and Hazza find their camp and realizes that Morris has betrayed him. The president rushes to Asghari, who is furious about the deer head. His father had killed the deer for him, proving he didn't believe Asghari could hunt on his own. The president hands the boy a pin, thanking him for saving his life. Asghari demands answers, and the president explains that dangerous men are after him, so they must separate. At that moment, Morris arrives and reports to Hazza over the radio. He orders the boy to leave instead. Asghari raises his bow and arrow, aiming at Morris. He fires but misses. The president tries to use his gun, but doesn't know how. Morris seizes the weapon, empties it, and engages in hand-to-hand combat with the president. Morris gains the upper hand as Asghari watches helplessly. At the Pentagon, officials track a terrorist helicopter and try to pinpoint the president's location. Fred recognizes Hazza as the son of a wealthy Gulf oil tycoon, but others remain skeptical. Meanwhile, Hazza finds the freezer box and decides to turn the president into a taxidermy trophy. He deposits $10 million into Morris's account before sealing the box shut. Asghari, hiding nearby, watches everything. The Pentagon sends troops to rescue the president, but they are too far away. Looking at a picture of his father, Asghari gathers his courage. As the helicopter lifts the freezer box, he leaps onto it. Morris sees Asghari and attempts to shake him off by flying the helicopter into trees. The boy uses a knife to cut the freezer box loose. It plummets to the ground, allowing them a brief escape. Morris opens fire, forcing Asghari and the president to take cover inside the box. Asghari then shifts his weight, pushing the box off the helicopter. They crash onto a road, bruised but alive. Nearby, they spot the wreckage of Air Force One, but the Pentagon, the vice president redirects the Navy SEALs to a different location. Meanwhile, he notices Fred secretly sending a message. In the helicopter, Hazza receives a cryptic text instructing him to kill the president, along with coordinates. Asghari and the president swim toward the wreckage, climbing into the partially submerged aircraft filled with corpses. They take a brief rest but are interrupted by approaching footsteps. Suddenly, the ceiling collapses, and Hazza descends on a rope. He plants a bomb with a 5-minute timer and prepares to escape. Morris deceives Hazza by pulling the rope, trapping him inside with the bomb. As they fight, Asghari regains consciousness and helps the president. The bomb is seconds from detonating, and Morris is still firing from the helicopter. Just before the explosion, Asghari and the president use emergency suits to eject. At the peak of their flight, Asghari fires an arrow at Morris, piercing his chest and dislodging the metal fragment inside him. Severely wounded, Morris falls from the helicopter as the bomb explodes. Tapio anxiously awaits his son's return. Suddenly, a yellow parachute lands near him. Special forces arrest Tapio and his hunters, while Pentagon officials assume the president has perished. But moments later, another parachute lands. Asghari reunites with his father and introduces Tapio to the president. The president calls Asghari the bravest man he's ever met. The SEALs confirm the president's safety, while Fred walks away in defeat. The movie ends with Asghari and the president posing for a photo as government helicopters hover around them. And that's how this thrilling survival story comes to an end. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more epic movie breakdowns. See you in the next one.